And I think the two of you are more impressed with Mr. Musk than I am. I think if somebody is making Nazi salutes, if somebody is being sued concurrently by two women for sole custody of their child because that person has not spent any time with that child, when someone is so severely addicted to drugs they can't get their shit together to show up to the White House without looking exceptionally high, I don't think that's the right role model for young men. So what I would ask to all of us is look at what money has done to us. That if someone can land a rocket on metal scissors or create a great AV, he's a genius. He's the wealthiest man in the world. But does that mean we should excuse depravity? Does that mean, unlike Bill Gates, he's not using his billions to help people? He's not planting trees, the shade of which he won't sit under?
In today's video, Scott Galloway absolutely destroys Kevin O'Leary in a heated debate about Elon Musk. Now, Kevin, true to form, was out there defending Musk like he's some kind of libertarian saint, calling government the problem and celebrating Elon's refusal to waste time with bureaucracy. But Scott, he brought the real heat, with receipts. Galloway called out the billionaire worship for what it is, saying billionaires like Musk benefit massively from public infrastructure, subsidies, and regulatory protections, and then pretend like they're victims of the very system that helped build them. So let's dive in and watch how Scott Galloway shuts down Kevin O'Leary in this heated debate.
I think this is an individual who has literally come off the tracks, who is rabidly addicted to drugs, and is using his immense power to get people elected, and that too many of us excuse what is abhorrent behavior. I think his legacy is not going to be an EV or putting rockets into space. I think it's going to be unnecessary death, disease, and disability of the world's most vulnerable. That is not what it means to be an innovator. It's not what it means to be an American. It's not what it means to be a man.
Wow. Kevin, what do you say to that?
That's a tough criticism. And that's certainly the kind of controversy that surrounds him and has almost since he came on the scene at the PayPal days. He has distractors. Scott's one of them. I get it. I would have kept that. There's a concept now that I deal with every day called Trump derangement syndrome internationally when I have to work in Abu Dhabi or in Zurich. And I get into a meeting and they want to go into a diatribe about Trump. And I say, this is a useless use of time. I'm not here to debate politics. I'm here to debate policy because we don't make money in politics as investors. We make money with policy. So if we could just use our valuable time together to look at the policy and see if there's an investment opportunity together. But I can't, and I don't care to get into debating Trump derangement syndrome. But what you just heard there from Scott is Musk derangement syndrome. And I get it. And I think it's fair that he has those criticisms. But it doesn't distract or take away from the achievements the man has made so far and will make. And I'm an advocate for executional excellence because in the end, if you burn your calories, trying to change someone who you know is not going to change and don't focus on the output that he can provide and the great solutions for mankind he has provided and hopefully will with robotics you talked about, then you are in the form of being dominated and controlled by a derangement syndrome. That's my opinion. And I've so far avoided that and I work a lot in Washington now. And I'm very, very fortunate to be able to work on a bipartisan basis because I represent entrepreneurship and job creation for small business. And that's bipartisan. Even AOC and Elizabeth Warren want to support that. And I can have my narratives with them. But when we get into Trump derangement, I shut off. And it's just a waste of time. And I think that's a waste of time criticizing, that he's not a man. I mean, I just find that. And I respect Scott. I mean, I respect his opinion. I respect all opinions, but let's burn our calories moving the needle forward is my view.
Scott Galloway absolutely nailed it in this debate with Kevin O'Leary on Piers Morgan's show, and frankly, it's about time someone called out the Elon Musk worship for what it is. While Kevin deflected by labeling Scott's critiques as Musk derangement syndrome, Scott actually brought substance, pointing to Musk's personal behavior, drug use, parental neglect, and his growing political influence as real concerns, not gossip. And Scott's right. We can acknowledge Elon's innovations while still holding him accountable. He hasn't used his wealth in the public interest the way someone like Bill Gates has. In fact, Musk's social media antics, labor violations, and attacks on journalists and regulators are part of a bigger pattern: power without responsibility. Even Tesla, often touted as a climate savior, isn't without fault. The company faces allegations of racial discrimination, workplace safety issues, and environmental concerns over battery production. And SpaceX, let's not forget, it's heavily funded by government contracts. So much for the self-made genius myth. Scott's point is simple. Admiration shouldn't mean exemption from criticism. Being a brilliant engineer doesn't give someone a pass to act like a wrecking ball in society.
I would also add to that, Scott. I think you make some very valid points about USAID, and I really want to see the data on that when it comes in, is to see exactly what the bottom line impact has been, and if it is anywhere near the levels that you and Bono think it's going to be or is being, it's clearly going to be appalling. But I would say on the derangement syndrome aspect of Musk and Trump, they both attract a huge amount of support and plaudits and aggro and so on. You know, you referenced there that he did a Nazi salute. And I don't think you actually think he did a Nazi salute for a moment. I mean, I'll ask you, but I don't think you do. And the other day, Cory Booker did exactly the same thing on stage, literally almost exactly the same thing. And all the people who had leapt on Elon Musk and said, he's a Nazi, did a Nazi salute, blah, 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 they all said the complete opposite about Cory Booker, simply because he was a Democrat. He was one of their tribe. Therefore, when he did almost exactly the same arm movement on a stage, he was not a Nazi. And I think that's where I would agree with Kevin, that sometimes it's the double standard which lends succor to the concept of derangement syndrome. Do you accept that?
While Kevin O'Leary and even Piers tried to muddy the waters with double standards and derangement syndrome talk, Scott stayed focused on the deeper issue. What happens when we let wealth and power completely override decency and accountability? His criticism of Musk wasn't just about controversial gesture, though let's be honest, Musk's nods to fringe conspiracies like white genocide in South Africa aren't just weird, they're dangerous. They legitimize far-right talking points and emboldened extremist narratives. And Scott's point about Musk's selective speech is crucial. Elon somehow finds the restraint to stay silent on human rights abuse in China, likely because of Tesla's business interests there, but has no problem trolling public figures and flirting with bigoted memes online. That's not about free speech. That's about profit-driven cowardice disguised as bravado. Kevin's fallback to executional excellence is telling. Sure, Musk has revolutionized EVs and rockets, but since when did technical output erase personal conduct? Do we really want the standard for our cultural icons to be, as long as he makes us money, the rest doesn't matter? Scott nailed it when he said we've mistaken wealth for wisdom and disruption for virtue.
I think derangement, the term derangement, is usually something levied at people when they don't have a cogent argument to counter the arguments I'm making. I would call myself someone who's been infected with democracy addiction syndrome and is allergic to the type of depravity that these individuals are demonstrated. I generally haven't seen Senator Booker's gesture. I think Steve Bannon and Elon Musk both gave Nazi salutes. I've watched the tape a bunch of times. This is an individual who's decided there's a white genocide against Africana farmers. I think he knew what he was doing. It might have been a tick, but he seems to be very disciplined about not making remarks or comments with respect to China. Whenever there's money on the line in a society where he may not have the same rights of free speech, he seems very disciplined. So, yeah, we have a fundamental disagreement. I do believe it was a Nazi salute or a Nazi gesture. I don't see other Republicans accidentally making hand gestures that remind them of the Third Reich.
But Cory Booker did. I mean, you should see it after this. Honestly, you would be amazed how similar the arm movement was and the difference in the way it was treated by.
Well, then it was wrong. I want to give you and Kevin this. If Senator Booker did this, he should be dressed down and say, you should never accidentally, errantly make a gesture that reminds people of the type of death and destruction that we incurred around an ideology that this symbol came to respect. And it just so happens that two guys who have a history of very conservative politics at a very conservative gathering accidentally made this gesture. They should know better. I don't know a lot of people accidentally making gestures that look like Nazi gestures at parent-teachers meetings.
Kevin O'Leary stayed on brand, praising Elon Musk's output and brushing off the controversy as derangement syndrome. Scott raised a far more nuanced and necessary question. What is the net impact of Elon Musk on society? And he's right. Musk can inspire an EV race, send rockets to Mars, and create trillions in shareholder value. But should that give him a pass for reckless, harmful behavior that affects real people, especially when he commands global attention and influence? Galloway also brought up something that's often overlooked: America's soft power, the goodwill and trust that allow American businesses and diplomacy to thrive around the world. Cutting off foreign aid, cozying up to authoritarian rhetoric, and turning a blind eye to Elon Musk's public spiral doesn't just look bad, it hurts the US economically and geopolitically. According to Pew Research, for the first time in history, many nations see China as a more reliable global leader than the US. That shift doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens when our most prominent figures start acting like erratic strongmen rather than responsible innovators. Scott isn't canceling Musk. He even praised Neuralink and Tesla. What he's calling for is accountability, that we stop worshipping billionaires like they're untouchable and start asking whether their influence builds a better world or just props up their own egos.
Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center, are covering the same story, so you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.